Hi, I'm Dr. Mike and welcome to NFGeeks. Well, this video is the first video of a new series for NFGeeks called Ask Dr. Mike Personal. And these videos are going to be response videos to people who are members of the NFGeeks forum on Facebook, sending me questions of a personal nature of theirs that they don't feel comfortable to post on the forum itself in a thread or as a post or anything like that. And so this is the first one. And all the videos will be anonymous. But this is from an INFJ. And so here's the question. Well, here's the background and then the question. My brother came out to my parents recently as being gay. My parents were very upset, and my father has disowned him and said he feels that he doesn't have a son. Although I support my brother, I haven't taken an officially open stance with my parents, but I'm very critical of my parents' response. I don't know if I should confront my parents. Even though I disagree with them and think the hurt they caused is deplorable, I also can see their genuine hurt based on their long-held beliefs. Should I have a smackdown fight over this? Is there a time to tell someone off when they won't listen to the wronged party? Okay, so that's the question. So here's my my response, and each response I am going to try to give an MBTI twist. Of course, but since these are very personal questions that have very serious consequences, I am going to speak from other positions. So I'm going to really, for this one, I'm speaking from an ethical point of view. Okay, that'll probably be true about many of these videos, but certainly for this point of view. And I tell my students that ethics is really about choices more than anything else. It's not about judging. It's not about knowing right from wrong. That's all involved. But really, ethics is about making a choice, meaning choosing a behavior that's going to result in a certain set of consequences, some of which you don't know. That's ethics, okay? And you want to try to choose the right one or the one that you think is best or whatever. But thinking about it isn't ethics. That's moral, moral ideas of morality. Ethics is actions, okay? And why should I take this specific action and what's going to happen if I take this action? So, bottom line here is that you're going to have to choose. And ultimately the choice is either your brother or your parents, but there's variations of that, okay? And that's something as an INFJ you need to know. Because INFJs are very, dichotomous. Okay, often they just see two choices. It's either this or that. Okay, especially if they're in a sort of anxious grip-like place, it just comes very, very, very specific choices. And that's why you need perceivers and ENFPs specifically in your life to say, no, you don't have two choices. You have like 7 choices. Okay, so there's various ways to support your brother, and there's various ways to support your parents. Okay. But you will have to make a choice of some kind regarding these positions. And in a general sense, it is a choice between do I support my brother or do I support my parents and let the chips fall where they may. Now, many of you will comment or just in your head think, well, no, there's this third choice of this ideal of of being able to side with both of them and bring them together and all this. And that's not true. Not in any kind of 50-50 stance, okay? That never happens, all right? Even if some kind of peace treaty can be brokered, somebody's going to be giving a little bit more than the other, maybe a lot more than the other. It's not going to be, half and half. It's going to be one's going to be giving more, one's going to be, having to give less or whatever. But it's going to be like that. It's not going to be 50-50, okay? And honestly, from just a ethical point of view, 50-50 assumes that everybody has the same position and that all things are relative. And I don't know that people want to accept that or that we should accept that. And I don't think in this situation it should be accepted about relativity. And also, and this is really the important part of this, about the idealist third position, is that I don't feel that this is a real position at all, and that this is really a choice to have somebody. It's really defense mechanistic. It's a choice to make someone have relief of their anxiety about the two choices, and it allows them to do nothing or do minimum things. Okay, because passivity is its own ethical choice. In fact, most of the ethical problems that people have, and most people are not Lex Luthor, you know what I mean, doing these horrible things around the world. But all the ethical problems that people have are, for the most part, non-choices. Is that they didn't take an action, and then things just unfolded the way they unfolded. Okay, and everyone just sort of stood there and watched. Okay, that is usually the position that people actually take, the choice of inaction. Okay, which is really always the worst choice in an ethical stance. And so this is a form of inaction, because what happens is that when you try to bring the two parties together, as soon as like there's consequences or it's tipping or whatever, people usually back off and say that, well, let's wait and see, let's try to do it. But then that's keeping everything in limbo and keeping yourself in limbo. It's not really a moral choice, and it's not really an ethical choice, that's for sure. So, a choice must be made. And that choice is going to have, consequences and pros and cons. And I know everybody knows, well, no kidding, says no kidding. But to be honest, this is why we don't make right choices. And this is why the third thing is really sort of this defense mechanistic thing. Because honestly, what we want is the positive outcomes of both choices and none of the negative outcomes of either choice. Okay? And that's not going to happen. Ever. Okay, so there's one choice that has positive and negative outcomes, and then there's another choice that has positive and negative outcomes, different ones too, and you have to choose one. Okay, so, and that's important because not only do you not want the consequences of the choice you're choosing, you also you don't. Normally we get mad that we also don't get the good stuff from the other choice too. I mean, it's sort of a double loss in that way. I can understand that, we all face that, but honestly, too bad. Okay, the position of trying to have all the good and none of the bad and try to have this totally 50-50 thing, that never happens. And not doing it and stepping back is really a way of not, making a choice. So you are going to have to make a choice on some kind, and there's going to have to be consequences of that. Okay, now regarding that choice, okay, I'm going to throw in my 2 cents in on this, of course, and I'm going to suggest that you stand by your brother, which is what you're sort of leaning towards anyway, okay? Now, people might get mad at me for saying that, that I shouldn't make that choice or say that out loud. But, hey, you don't have to listen to a video, first of all. You can make whatever choice you want. But, I do think NFGeeks has to take an ethical stance on things, too. And I do think this is the right choice. And so the example I want to give is, imagine, it's 60 years ago, and I'm reading this, and it says something like, my brother was disowned from my family because he brought home his black girlfriend, and my parents flipped out. Would we find it acceptable now to give advice then, like, well, I'm sure you can understand your parents' feelings about having a Negro in the house? Would that be acceptable? Would that, if that was this 50 years ago saying that? No, it wouldn't, and it's not acceptable now. So, honestly, siding with your brother is the moral high ground, and I think you know that. Okay, you have to realize though, if you do that, there's going to be positive and negative things going on. There would be some real consequences. Your parents may disown you too, and there could be all sorts of things about that. You know what I mean? Depending on what your relationship is with your parents, whether it's your emotional relationship, your financial relationship, whatever it is, there's going to be consequences on that. If you take that position. So you have to make a choice, and the choice will have consequences, and you'll have to think if you can live with those. So, if you can handle the consequences of choosing your brother, that's fine. If you can't, then don't do it, if you can't. But don't pretend that you're making a choice. I mean, then choose your parents and deal with them, okay? But you will have to make a choice. There will be consequences. I do think the moral side, the ethical choice, is to choose with your brother and stand by him. Okay, that's the moral high ground, And granted, this is a difficult time for that choice because, we're at a turning point in history regarding homosexuals and homosexual issues and homosexual rights, and it's about to tip over, where homosexuals are going to be accepted. There's going to be gay marriage. Everything's going to happen. It's going to start that, where it's about to flip, and it's at the moment of the flip where you get the most tension and violence, because the people and the ideas that had the most power prior to the flip are feeling the power slipping from them, and so they start being reactionary. The example I would give is, think of all the violence that took place during the civil rights movement. Okay, that's because the tension was coming in, and it was about to flip, and that's where you had all sorts of things, church bombings and whatever. Okay, because it was flipping. Now, it doesn't mean there wasn't violence before, or there hasn't been violence since, but the real tipping point, whenever there's a tipping point, that's where the violence is. And so it's a tense moment in history with this issue, so I'm certainly not taking it lightly by any means. Okay, so let's get some INFJ stuff in this. Where is INFJ hurting or helping? Okay, well, it's hurting in two ways. The first way I've already mentioned, which is that the question sort of implies the INFJ, dichotomy, that there's only two choices. Well, there could be more than two choices. There could be 3, 4, 5. So again, for example, what does it mean to choose your brother? Okay, it could mean many things. It could mean bringing your brother to your parents regularly and talking to them, engaging in a conversation. Or it mean having your brother move in, or whatever it means. It could mean, a ton of stuff. All right. Same thing with the parents. Dealing with your parents. You asked if it's about having a smackdown. Choosing your brother doesn't necessarily mean having a smackdown. Okay, it could be just, look, you either have a discussion as a family and accept this, or we don't have a smackdown, we don't talk to each other. That avoids the smackdown, There's multiple things you can do. You give your parents choices, okay? If you do that, though, keep in mind, kids do this and everybody does this. If you give people 2 or 3 choices, they're going to want to pick a 4th choice, okay, and negotiate a 4th choice. And that choice is always to give them the advantage and disempower you. Don't allow that. Just like you shouldn't with a kid, okay? You shouldn't do that. Don't let them invent a choice, okay? But give them choices. Or you could just side with your parents in the hopes that maybe if there's unity, this will somehow work or change or whatever, and there's that. But honestly, you do have to choose, okay, something. But there's more than just 2 choices. You don't have to choose a smackdown. You can directly support your brother and talk to them and not choose the smackdown, okay? So think about that. That's one way it's not working for you. Another way that INFJ isn't working for you is that it's not directly said, but I can sense the INFJ passive aggressiveness involved, where like you're trying to communicate to your parents that it's bad and you're putting it out there, but you don't want to show that you have that out there, and you're worried about it, and because then they'll know what you're all about and maybe reject you or whatever, but you want to stand by your brother, so it's kind of out there, so you're putting it out there and that makes you feel good, but as soon as somebody notices it, you pull it back in. What are you talking about? I never said that. I can see, I know my INFJs, so I could see that passive aggressive, putting it out there, but then like pulling it back in, if anyone recognizes it, but at the same time trying to do the right thing. You have to like get over that. You have to really sort of like, get some courage and get over that passive aggressiveness and make a choice, okay? Which you want to do anyway, because, you're a judger. Judges choose, okay? You do have to make a choice, fight over that anxiety. Because granted, it's an anxiety that's really holding back. Just like picking that option, like, well, we'll all live happily ever after and it'll be totally 50-50. That's to relieve the anxiety over it, over the way you want it to be, not the way that you can actually act through it. Okay? With all the good things and none of the consequences, and and we all live happily ever after. That idea is to relieve the anxiety. Same thing with the passive aggressive thing. Okay. Now the good news. So what are the strengths? Well, the strengths is nobody believes in a cause and really sort of fights for that cause like an INFJ, and you have a lot of power in that, and you should use that. Okay, you should gear that up to do that, because you already know what the right thing is. I mean, really, the question obviously shows, even though you feel bad about your parents and you're having anxiety about it, you obviously, are on the side of your brother anyway. That's why I don't feel that bad saying it. You're already over there. But gear up that, because you have, you have an INFJ case to make. It's a moral issue here. I'm sure they have old school values, but, family's family, and he's not going to change like that. So they can't just, they can't just not do anything about it, or take an action that'll bring the family together. They can't just not do that. I mean, they might, but they shouldn't anyway. But you can make that happen, or at least not necessarily make happen the thing coming together, but making a moral stance can come from you as an INFJ. And the last thing, and you're doing this here too, is use your NF powers to kind of know where everyone stands and how to use that and how to connect with them and how to connect everybody with that. Who are the what are everybody's types and temperaments. I'm sure you may not know their types exactly, but I'm sure whether your parents are SJs or SPs or NTs or whatever the heck they are, and you can use that to your advantage. And INFJs know those things very well. INFJs yield the personality typology very, very well, and with strength and confidence. And so feel free to do that, because that'll help you. Okay, use your INFJ power for that. All right, so that's my answer for this first video. And again, it's a very poignant time in history for this question to come up to be the first one. Good luck, of course. So for everyone else watching, thanks for watching. Come join the fun on the NFGeeks Facebook forum. I'm now offering typing services, professional typing services with the MBTI. You can do a consultation with me for $50, for a session on the internet, via Google Hangout. It's cheapest on the internet, $50. You can do that, or if you join the Facebook forum, I hold a lottery every week on Monday nights, and you could win a free typing by me, MBTI consultation typing for free. You could win it. It's a great prize. So come join us on the Facebook forum for NFGeeks and be part of the fun. And also follow NFGeeks on Tumblr and on Twitter. And as always, NFGeeks, it's happening. And this is happening, very serious stuff. So it's happening, and thank you for watching.